Welcome to the Life Doula Podcast, where we talk about the things most people avoid: cancer, grief, dying, and the radical act of healing. Here, we hold space not just for surviving, but for living fully, honestly, and deeply. I'm Charity Marohombsar, cancer coach, grief companion, and your guide through this tender terrain. Today, I want to explore a paradox I see again and again in the cancer journey. When the body breaks, but the spirit grows. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? But because everything about illness tells us that decline means loss, the body weakens, mobility fades, appetite changes, independence slips away. But what if, in the quiet breaking of the body, something inside us is actually strengthening, becoming more patient, more compassionate, more grounded, and even more alive? That's what we're talking about today. How suffering can expand us, soften us, and somehow mysteriously makes us whole in ways we never expected. Let's talk about the uninvited guest. Illness is rarely polite. It enters without knocking, rearranges our plans, and makes itself at home in places where we never wanted it to touch. And for those in the cancer world, it doesn't just test the body, it exposes the heart. When a diagnosis comes, it disrupts everything familiar. The routines, the dreams, even the way you think about time. Suddenly, every day feels like borrowed. Every ache is suspicious. Every doctor's appointment feels like crossing into unknown territory. But amid all this upheaval, I've witnessed something surprising. While the body grows frail, the spirit, that unseen, resilient part of who we are, begins to rise. It doesn't happen easily or automatically. It happens through tears, through wrestling, through long nights of questioning. But I've seen it happen again and again. If you've ever tried to measure your progress during treatment, you know how deceptive the numbers can be. 1 week, the scan looks good. The next, the markers shift. It's like trying to find the piece in a quicksand. But what if the real growth isn't on the charts? What if it's in the way you forgive faster now? Or how you're gentler with yourself? Or the way you no longer rush through conversations because you've learned that time, real time, isn't measured in minutes, but in presence. I once worked with a woman who said, cancer made me more human. Not better, not wiser, just more human. It stripped her of pretending. She said she stopped living for someday and started noticing now. The smell of coffee, the voice of her daughter, the quiet comfort of a hand in hers. That's growth. Not the kind we can post about or measure in results, but the kind that happens deep inside, in the unseen spaces where resilience quietly roots itself. Pain, fear, grief, they're not enemies of growth. They're the soil it grows in. When the body hurts, our instinct is to fight it, to shut it down. But sometimes pain has something to say. Sometimes it reveals what we've always ignored: exhaustion, bitterness, control, or the illusion that we ever had full power over our lives. In those moments, I encourage people not to rush past their pain, but to sit with it, to ask what it's teaching. What is this pain teaching me? Not because pain itself is good, but because it's honest. It refuses to let us live half-truths. And when we let it speak, pain often uncovers unexpected companions: compassion, patience, and humility. We start to see others differently. We start to listen with softer hearts. Suffering has a way of widening our empathy. It makes space in us for the suffering of others. Sometimes in the stillness after treatment, when the room quiets and even the machines seem to hum softer, people tell me they begin to wonder what really sustains them. What keeps the spirit alive when the body feels it's unraveling? I've heard so many describe this gentle turning, not dramatic, not even religious at first, just a slow awakening to the thought that maybe there's something deeper at work. Lately, I've been drawn to that question myself. What if healing isn't just about soothing the body, but about renewing the inner person, the part of us that hopes, that endures, that loves through pain? And what if that renewal doesn't come from more effort or positive thinking, but from truth? Truth that can hold us when everything else feels fragile. I've started to notice that many of the people who seem to grow stronger in spirit, even as their bodies weaken, have begun exploring something timeless. Some open the pages of the Bible again, not for comfort alone, but to really understand what it says about who we are, why we suffer, and what kind of hope can't be taken away. They read and discover a strange paradox. The renewal comes not from denial, but from anchoring ourselves in something unshakable. If you've ever felt that pull, that quiet curiosity, maybe that's your invitation to explore it. Open it for yourself, read slowly, ask questions, let it surprise you. Not as a ritual, not as another thing to do, but a search for the kind of wisdom that strengthens the inner man, even as the outer one fades. Because when everything else breaks down, treatment plans, even our own strength, maybe what we need most isn't escape, but something or someone solid enough to rebuild us from inside out. And that, I think, is where the deepest kind of healing begins. There's a point in every journey where the body demands surrender. You can resist for a while, fight the fatigue, push past the pain, but eventually you realize that letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing rest. I want to share with you this experience that I had when I was undergoing my own treatment. I refused to let the medicines, chemotherapy just really put me down. I refused to rest. I would engage in meetings, in responding to emails, until one day, my body couldn't cope with everything that was going on. And that's when I learned that surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means just giving way to what needs to happen now. I think letting go is one of the hardest spiritual muscles to build. The hardest. because we're taught that control equals safety. We were brought up into this world thinking we are in control. But in illness, control slips through your fingers like sand. We're forced to face what's underneath. It's in that place, the quiet surrender, that many find peace. The kind that doesn't come from certainty, but from trust. Trust that even when we can't carry ourselves, life can still carry us, or God continues to carry us. That there is a meaning in the middle, not just in the end. Strength looks different when you've been through illness. It's not loud or shiny. It doesn't always stand tall. Sometimes strength is a person who asks for help, or the person who accepts help. Sometimes it's showing up for chemo with shaky hands but steady will. Sometimes it's choosing forgiveness. Sometimes it's saying, I can't do this alone. I've learned that true strength isn't found in denial. It's found in honesty, in showing up fully human. Because when the body breaks, what often emerges isn't a tougher person, it's a truer one. If you've been feeling worn out physically, emotionally, spiritually, especially to cancer warriors who have been fighting this battle for several years now, I want you to remember this. Your worth was never tied to your performance, to your productivity, to the progress of your treatment, or your prognosis. There is more to you than your diagnosis. You are still capable of deep joy, meaningful connection, and quiet beauty, even here, even now. The body may weaken, but the spirit can grow in ways the world cannot measure. You might find compassion blooming where bitterness once lived, gratitude where fear used to rule. And maybe, just maybe, that's what it means to heal. Not to escape suffering, but to become someone new through it. As we close, I want to remind you, this journey is not linear. Healing, growth, acceptance, they loop and spiral and take their time. But you are not walking it alone. There's a community rising around this new version of cancer care. One that honors the whole person, not just the illness. I hope you remember this. You can still grow in the breaking. The spirit can still be renewed, and you are still more than enough. Body, mind, and soul. This has been the Life Doula Podcast. I'm Charity Marohombsar. Thank you for sharing this space with me where we talk about the hardest things and somehow find the life in them. Until next time, take gentle care.